affecting our people because we try to benchmark with some certain things that are not very, especially when it comes to budget making processes and allocation of funds and expenditure. We're just trying to copy the West and because the West are really in trouble, because how inflation happens is when people are not able to afford basic things because of high taxation, then there is a temptation for everyone to increase these prices. The doctors will increase their medical fees. Right. The teachers will increase their salaries. You will increase the salaries of other staff members, and eventually you will have a very highly inflated country whereby even whatever money you are paid, you're not able to meet your needs. And that's what is happening in most of the Western countries. Right. There's high salaries and high expenditure. So even if those literally, it's a zero-sum game because you're not even deriving value from the compensation.
And speaking of a zero-sum game, the question I had asked earlier, and perhaps to take it to Raphael, how then do we get to measure just whether expenditure is delivering value for money? Because that's also critical.
I think what FCP is trying to explain is that when they say that the economy has grown, and they keep telling us that when in 2022 they said that a packet of unga was 200, today is 150 or whatever amount they're saying, but by then people had the 200 to buy. Okay. So what we are saying, once the economy grows, even the disposable income will grow. I'll be having money to buy unga for my family.
Buying power,
and call FCPA in the evening for a coffee date where we chat on business issues. Right. Today, if you look at the building sector, the construction industry, how do you measure that that industry is growing? Even in the era of affordable housing, the cement consumption in this country has gone down. Why? Because when the economy, when the disposable income is there, somebody extends a room in the village, that you know that people are having more than they ought to, than they had. They're able to expand an extra room in their village. But when we want to measure on the bulk that has been bought by the affordable housing by the government, if you look at the budget that we have, what has been set aside for development, the government is the biggest catalyst to ensure development in this country. But if the development budget keeps on shrinking, then we cannot talk of having value for our money.
And I like that you bring up that conversation of development, 8.8 billion, but just what exactly is development? Can we substantiate to say that this is the kind of development that we're talking about? Or this money, again, is going to be channeled to development, yet even Kenyans don't get really to understand, and even priorities, because these are critical. For instance, when I look at the roads, which is a good thing, that then it gets about 200 billion, and then there's also that aspect of securitization, monies that are almost immediately coming from fuel to this direction of the roads. One begins asking themselves, is it a question of double allocation? And then how do we get to measure and value and just get to understand that this ultimately is going to be for the good of the
I think aspect of development. You're putting it right in terms of duplication. I'll single out education. Right. Why do I have a bursary fund with the MP, with the governor, with the MCA, with the president? Can't all this money be congregated together and given to the Ministry of Education? Okay. That duplication and the optics that are there when we are delivering these checks, that is a lot of wastage. Right. So I think what we need to look at, when you mention the roads, when it rains heavily, and the weatherman has told us that we expect El Nino in some later in the year, are we seeing any preparedness? People in Nyandarua will not have access to the market because the roads are bad, whilst people in Turkana will be starving to death. So that is where we need to see roads being opened up in Nyandarua so that the farmer can bring the potatoes to the market and the potatoes can get to the people who need it at that point. So when we talk of development, I see the biggest problem we have in this country is that we're also competing unnecessarily. I come from Kiambu County. Murang'a County is just next door. You find Kiambu County buying a machine for Thika Level 5 hospital, and Murang'a buying the same machine 10 kilometers away in Keno Hospital. Whilst if there was synergy and working together, Murang'a County would invest in an X-ray machine, and Kiambu County invest in an MRI machine, for instance. I'm not medic, so I cannot talk about this. But that is what I'm saying. If we have the even economic blocks working together, the kind of duplication that we see will not be there. Right. And this would enable people, basically we're all Kenyans before we come from different counties. Then when you look at at the recurrent expenditure. We keep on talking about development being allocated a small amount. The current expenditure is the highest of them all. So I was expecting CS Mbadi, because when he was in the opposition, he kept on saying we need to live within our means. I expected him to walk that talk.
Right.
But I think when you get in there, things grounds are quite different.
If we're going to look at this in terms of figures, what would be within our means from 4.8? Have we stretched it to?
From where I sit, I would have looked at them reducing the amount they're borrowing. From the domestic borrowing, they're borrowing almost 900 billion. What that does is going to crowd out you and I from the banks completely because of the safety and the risk